Here's how this works. Water, salt, and pepper, those are freebies. Your pantry, it better have flour, oil, vinegar, mustard, and garlic. Beyond that, you'll only need 5 more ingredients and 25 minutes to put an entree or entire meal on the table. So, shop, set the clock, and let's dish out. Alright, obviously we're going to need some steak. I'm going with ribeye here, but you could use a leaner or cheaper cut if you just don't want it to taste quite as good. For our cheese, we'll go with provolone. Could also use Cheese Whiz, just depends on if you're a Pat's or Geno's fan. If you know, you know. I'm using a 12-inch French loaf here, and then extra flavor in the form of onion and bell pepper. Let's get to work. First up, we're going to cut this bell pepper into little bite-sized pieces, maybe about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch in size. Once that's done, go ahead and set your bell pepper aside and turn your attention to your onion. Take off the stem end, cut it in half from pole to pole, and then I'm just going to cut this into 3 slices and then go around and make longitudinal cuts, again trying to keep this roughly a similar size as our pepper so that it cooks at the same rate. Go ahead and set that aside, and now we need to cut up our steak. You can see the grain runs one direction, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half and then make extremely thin slices against the grain in the other direction. If you don't want to do this in 25 minutes and you have half an hour or so to throw the steak in the freezer beforehand, it does make it a lot easier to cut thinly like thus. Last bit of preparation here for our bread. I don't want to separate it completely, so I'm going to leave one seam or side intact. And then, just to make room for all this cheese and meat we're about to stuff in there, I am going to take a little bit of the bread out of one side. Optionally, you can toast your bread in a 350-degree oven for a few minutes while we cook, which we will begin by sauteing our peppers and onions in a couple tablespoons of olive oil over high heat for 3 to 4 minutes, or until they are just softened and starting to get a nice brown color. You'll of course season them with salt and pepper, be a savage if you didn't, and use a spatula to break those onions up as they cook. Again, just takes a few minutes if you have the appropriate amount of heat here. Once they're colored and softening, get them out of the skillet, and we will turn our attention to our ribeye. Ripping hot heat, you can see it smoking there before I put the meat in, and just distribute the meat in a single layer across the bottom of your skillet. This is about a pound of ribeye, by the way, and it's going to make a big sandwich, enough for 2 people. We're going to season it up with salt and pepper, and do not touch this for 3 or 4 minutes. We do want to get a little crust on that one side of the beef for maximum flavor. After about 3 to 4 minutes, you can go in there with a spatula. If you happen to have a nice sharp metal spatula like this, you can kind of chop it up and break it up a little bit, but don't worry, if you're using ribeye, this is going to be nice and tender, and those pieces of beef are going to be bite tender, whether you chop them up a little bit or not. Return your onions and peppers to your beef, and we're just going to incorporate all of this together, again kind of chopping and stirring a little bit. Total cook time on this is probably 8 or 9 minutes, including the peppers and onions, if you have a nice hot skillet. Go ahead and separate this into 2 piles here, just so we can get even cheese distribution. How much cheese you put on this is up to you, but it is a cheesesteak, so to me, I feel like it should be copious. Alright, we're going to put a little lid or bowl on top, and this is only going to take about 30 seconds. It is going to steam that cheese beautifully to get it nice and melty without having to overcook the beef. And look at that, you got caramelized onions and peppers, nice brown beef, and gooey cheese. I'm going to get this into our toasted bun. Go ahead and pile it all in there. Since we took some of that bread out of the top, there's plenty of room for our filling. And there's your cheesesteak. Now, I like to keep mine nice and warm and steamy and melty while I eat it, so for that, just wrap it up in a little layer of aluminum foil. Gets everything nice and compact on the inside and keeps it warm while you eat it. Slice this sandwich in half and you've got a nice entree for 2 people. I'm going to go ahead and just start going savage on it from one end here. Got to go for a big bite first. Get everything in there, that gooey cheese, and it is gooey. That wonderfully caramelized steak and those soft peppers and onions, all properly seasoned. 5 ingredients, but man, this is a flavorful sandwich. I hope you'll give it a try. Add whatever other toppings and ingredients you like, but whatever you do, go make something delicious.